So good morning everyone and welcome to Sunday Brunch. It is the 8th of November and we are really stuck in now with the self-development program, looking at like each area of your circle of life. And as always with these calls, we're going to start off by doing the self-development section, and then we're going to do a power hour, but I will stop the recording for that. So if you're watching the recording back and you would really love to have known what was in the power hours, then let me know, because I can make sure we record one in the future. I'm just going to read out some of these wins of the week. So I've already read out just before I hit record that there's been some amazing recruitment and sales happening so far, but also people have been taking time for themselves. They've been exercising. Jazz built a cupboard that she's been putting off, and these things are important as well, because these things play in the back of our minds. Like when we have a task that we need to do that we haven't done for ages, plays in the back of our mind, and it kind of affects us in everything else that we're trying to do as well. Danielle's been on all the calls that she can get on, amazing, becoming more consistent with working out, exercise. Yeah, great. In-person sale from work yesterday, that's amazing, and I'm so happy you shared that, because it's kind of going to link to a little bit about what I'm talking about today with connection. Listening to my body, taking time out, working on being more in the moment, and working on my marriage. It was tough during lockdown. Like business, you need to invest in all your partnerships. Absolutely, that's so important. Lots of conversations. Yeah. So following on kind of just from what Jackie said then is something that I have always done is consumed myself with work, to the point where like I was so happy being single. This was obviously before I met Josh. So happy being single. I was like, I'm going to be single forever because I've got all the time for myself. I can like work. I never really formed close relationships with people just because I didn't make time for it. And actually, as I got older, I realized those things are so important. I used to look at other people that had close friendships and close relationships, and I used to think, they look so happy, and yes, I'm creating all of these things and I'm like ticking off all of these achievements, but actually I had to ask myself, am I happy? And as much as I love those things, I realized that I needed that balance of close relationships and partnerships. And there's times in your life where you're going to be faced with difficulty, and you need those relationships and that support to help you get through those things. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely something I am still working on. I still struggle with making the time for these things, but I really have made improvements in this area, and it's transformed my whole life from doing it. So I also want to say that as I was planning for this call, there were a couple of things that were making me think, oh, I don't want to do this one this week, like the timing isn't great. And that's because, first of all, it's something I'm still working on, but more importantly than that is it just made me sad that we're not able to connect in real life as much as we usually would. Because as I was looking at statistics of like loneliness and things like that, like these studies were done a couple of years ago, and actually when I read out the numbers, they'll probably surprise you a little bit, maybe they won't. And it made me sad that that was 2 years ago, before all of this coronavirus stuff. And it actually hurts my heart that people are feeling lonely, because I am, and I know that there are people that are feeling even more lonely than me. Like, we have this amazing community, and I am so grateful for this, because I don't know what I'd be doing without this. And I don't know, maybe you guys let me know in the chat bar if you feel the same. But it makes me sad that so many people are probably feeling incredibly disconnected, and that affects so many different areas of their life, from their self-belief, their self-esteem, their self-worth, you know, all of these things. We've got a few people agreeing in the comments. Yeah, so I'm going to read out some of these statistics, and then I'm just going to go kind of more in depth in things that you can do. And these are kind of just things for you to think about, rather than me preaching at you and saying, do this, do that. It's more kind of topics to spur on different questions in your own mind, and think, okay, maybe is that an area that I can work on myself? Because we're all so different, right? And different things are gonna what I'm trying to say is everything's going to be different for each of us. Can you please put your cameras on, because as I say every week, that really keeps my energy up, and it's the connection thing again. It makes me feel connected to you. I don't care if you look like shit on this Sunday morning, I really don't, but please just put your camera on, because it's so lovely to see your face. Yeah, pajamas are fine. I don't mind pajamas. I don't mind dressing gowns. I don't mind mum buns. I don't care if you're drinking a glass of wine already. Like, honestly, I don't care. I just want to see your faces. And actually, I prefer this. I prefer when you're real and honest. You're, in your pajamas, or you're doing your housework whilst you're listening, because that's what makes us all realize that we're all human, we're all connected, we all have lives. We're not perfect, like we don't wake up in the morning and we're ready for the day and we're on it from the moment we wake up until we go to sleep. Like, that's not the way it happens. Like, we have different things we need to do throughout the day. We're often, I think it's more recent, we try to juggle so many things at once. I heard someone say it's like when you have all your tabs open on your computer. That's like what our brains are like these days. We have like 1,000,001 tabs open, and it's hard to shut them all off before we go to bed, so some of them stay open the next day. So yeah, okay, great. We've got loads of cameras on now, which is amazing. So write these statistics down if you want to, because I think they are quite powerful. And it's if we link this to the business, it's important to remember that these statistics are true, and our job really in our business is to just be a light for people and to share our community, share what we have, share the opportunity, and share the products. And when you remind yourself of these statistics, for me, it creates this fire in me, like I have a duty to serve people, and I have a duty to just share this with people. If they say no, they say no, but if I don't ask, it's definitely a no, and they might never even find out about it. Okay, so this was a 2017 study. 1 in 8 of us as humans report having 0 close friends. That's 1 in 8 people. So on this call, there's like 46 people. So if we say 48, how many is that? Is it 6? So that's 6 people on this call would say that they have no close friends at all, according to those statistics. And I would say that those statistics probably increased a lot recently. And just really interesting, a couple of years back before they did that study, it was 1 in 10. So within those 2 years of doing those studies, it had actually increased already. So this study now is quite old, 3 years old, and yeah, the virus is a new thing. So that was 2017. 45% feel lonely at least sometimes. So almost half of people do feel lonely, not all of the time, but at least sometimes. And again, if you're happy to share in the comments, if you agree with those statistics, if you felt like that, then please do, because it's really good to have that connection with each other, so you know you're not alone. But also, I know that this is quite a vulnerable subject, so only share if you're comfortable. 18% of people feel lonely often or all of the time. So 18% of people, that's quite a lot. And again, this study is quite old, so I would say it's definitely more than that. 1 in 6 people, and this is the one that really gets my heart, is 1 in 6 people said they never or rarely felt loved. So 1 in 6 people said they never or they rarely felt loved. How sad is that? I don't know, does that shock any of you? Is that like, do you think that's kind of, would you expect that? It shocks me. And also what it made me realize is when we're having so many conversations with people and people are very negative towards us, maybe they fall into that 1 in 6 category, and actually the way they're speaking to us is just a reflection of the fact that they feel so lonely, and instead of someone reaching out to say, hey, how are you, they feel like someone is reaching out to make a sale with them, and that's going to make them feel even worse. So again, linking this to the business, we can really think about the words we choose to use, and just being aware that a lot of people do feel like they aren't loved, which is really important. Okay, so on a positive note, 83% of us enjoy having good relationships with other people. So that just goes to show that we are human and connection is important, and we do really enjoy being connected with others. So I've written down some things, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of them as well. I'd say make notes on these, because even if it's something that you don't struggle with or something that's not going to be helpful for you, I think it's going to be helpful for you when you are connecting with other people, whether that's just in your life or in the business specifically. Um, and I always say this is the way that we address our life and the things going on in our life and these different sections. There are so many lessons that we can apply to the business, and when you learn those lessons in your real life, you equally learn them in the business. It's like they work in parallel with each other, and the problems that come up in your life are most likely the problems coming up in your business as well. It's like a parallel universe kind of thing, like they're kind of different, but the problems and all of that is the same. So you might start to make those connections in your head of like, oh yeah, maybe I need to do that in my business, or maybe that's why that happens, or whatever. Okay, so the first big section here is withdrawing from others. So withdrawing from others, and basically, obviously, what this means is when people start to feel lonely, as humans, what we do is we withdraw ourselves even more. Which, when you say it out loud, is just crazy. Why do we do that when we're starting to feel lonely? Why do we make ourselves even more isolated? But I've been there before. I don't know how many of you guys know me that well, know my story, but I have suffered with anxiety and depression in the past, and panic attacks, and it all came from just not feeling like I had a support system around me, and I felt very lonely. I didn't have many close friends. I wasn't close with my family. And then what I did was I had people reaching out to me trying to help me, and I was just like, no, leave me to it. Like, I don't want to speak to anyone. And it is really crazy that we do that. But anyway, that's our human nature. However, there are things we can do to improve. So the first thing is remind yourself of the importance of other people. So remind yourself of the importance of other people. So when we are in that state of feeling isolated, feeling lonely, whether it's depression or um, something else going on, like, it doesn't have to be as severe as depression, by the way. Like, in this situation right now, we're all isolated. So I would say most of us are feeling at least one or two of these things that I'm going to read out. But it can mess with your head, and it makes you start to undervalue the importance of your friends and family. So going back to what I just said then, you don't appreciate things as much, and it's hard to practice gratitude when you're in that state. So just remind yourself that life is richer and more fulfilling when you have those close relationships. So no matter how you're feeling, when you want to withdraw, reach out to friends and family, because the importance of having those other people is so strong. The second thing under this topic is believing in yourself. So number 2 was believing in yourself. So if I just talk about this a little bit more, you don't want to assume that because you don't feel like being social, that other people don't want to be around you. So just because you feel like you may not want to be around other people, they probably do want to spend time with you. So it comes back to the thing really of getting out of our head and into our heart, and almost being a little bit less selfish. So we can be really selfish because we can be like, well, no one wants to be around me or whatever. And something Linda always says when it comes to our business is, you are not that important. So, and I know that's like real talk right now, but sometimes we get so inside our head and we're so consumed by ourselves that we don't think actually maybe someone else needs our time, and someone else needs us to be there right now. Someone else needs us to drop them a message. So that's a really good thing as well, is just believing in yourself and believing that other people's life is better because you're in it. I'll say that again. Other people's life is better because you're in it. So always remind yourself of that, because it's so easy to forget that. Yeah, and then the other thing here is when you're making plans with someone, you are helping them to fulfill their own needs as well. And that is something to feel good about. When you know you're serving, the secret to living is giving. When you know you're serving others, it really does make you feel better. Okay, number 3, keeping it brief to start. So keeping it brief to start. Okay. So if hanging out with friends or going to a social event does seem too daunting to you, and right now, it is more difficult. It may be doing things virtually, like getting involved in social events virtually, whether that's in our community or outside of our community. I just want to shout out my teamie Sophie. I don't know if she's on the call, but she organised a bingo for us yesterday, and it actually was a really, really lovely thing to do. I mean, I'm not happy because I didn't win one thing, one line, one board, and Josh won twice. But it was a really lovely thing to do that was just completely social, like no business. To be honest, there wasn't loads of small talk, which is something that I am not very good at. I'm not good at small talk. I much rather just go straight into a like big in-depth conversation about the philosophy of life. So it was really nice to just all be social and play a game and do something like that, and just take your mind off of everything else that's going on. So, you know, yeah, some of you saying it's so fun, it's great, loved it. And you know, there's things like that going on within our team, so keep an eye out for those things, because it's kind of open to everyone in XXY anyway. And if you're not in XXY and you're in a different team, maybe think about being the person who creates a social event, and just do it. Who cares if only 3 people get on? Like, those 3 people, they got on for a reason, you know. So just make things really, really simple. Another thing I wrote down here is when you're out and about, just talk to people. Like if you're at the shop, ask someone how their day's been. A few days ago, Josh and I went for a walk. We grabbed a coffee, and the coffee shop was totally empty. Obviously, it's takeaway coffee, totally empty, no one there. And I just thought, this guy looks so miserable. And I just said to him, I was like, hey, how's your day going? And he was like, oh, it's okay, I've got to make a few more people redundant, it's a bit difficult. And I was like, God, I can't imagine being in your position. And I just asked him, like, how are you? Like, have you been affected? And he hadn't been affected. And the thing is, when you start to ask people questions, you'll find they just start to talk. And the key is, as well, is just be the listener. I actually find it really therapeutic. I don't necessarily always want people to ask me how I am. I'm like, no, just keep talking. Especially when I'm out and about in shops and stuff like that. So just practice, because I haven't always been able to do that. It's definitely taken a lot of self-belief and confidence. And you know, there is that, I think Jazz put earlier, fear of rejection. Like, there is that fear of rejection when you go to talk to a stranger and you think, what if they ignore me? But we're human, right? If someone asks you how your day's going, are you going to look at them and not reply? I don't think so. I think you're going to answer the question of how are you and how your day's been. So don't be afraid to just do that, because it really, really does nourish ourselves as well. What number are we on? Number 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So chat with friends online or on the phone. So that was number 4, is chat with friends online or on the phone. So obviously it's best to connect face to face, but it's a bit more difficult to do that at the moment. And chatting with friends on the phone or online still counts. And again, so with this business, I was like, I have to cut off all communications. I'm focused. I have to do this. I have to do that. And this is how I view it, right? It's okay to have seasons in your business. So it's okay to have seasons of like laser focus. You let your friends and family know, I'm in the zone right now. Like, maybe it's your 90-day game plan. I'm in the zone right now. I'm so focused on my business goals. Let's do something after these 90 days are up. Let's go for a coffee. Let's go for a walk. In the normal world, let's go for a weekend away or whatever. And then after those 90 days, make sure you spend that time with the people that you care about. Because I think the biggest mistake I made was I just went for as long as I can, and I was like, no, I'm so focused, can't meet with you right now, can't do this, can't do that. But you can't keep that up for 3 to 5 years. Like, relationships and spending time with people, that social interaction really is important. So that's the way I view it, because I do also appreciate that sometimes you need to be laser focused in the zone, getting your shit done, and meeting up with people and stuff like that can take you away from your goals. So I think of it as seasons. Number 5 is get a friend to do the planning. So that was number 5, is get a friend to do the planning. So what this means basically is if you feel like you don't have the energy to plan something, or you are so focused on your business goals, you don't want to make time to plan something, then a really good thing to do is just make the other person do the planning. So if, for example, you are really, really busy, you're really focused, or equally, you're just feeling a little bit exhausted, maybe you're quite introverted and actually it's quite a lot of effort for you to reach out to someone and organize something. So whichever situation it is, just be honest with the other person and say, look, I really want to do something with you. Can you organize it? This is when I'm free. I'd love to see you. Let me know what you're thinking and we'll agree. Because other people may not feel like it's exhausting for them to organize something, or they may not be as busy as you. And I'm trying to relate this to the business as much as I can, but also just generally talk about life because these things are important. But yeah, we can be so focused on our goals that sometimes we just need someone to say, look, this is what we're doing, this is when it is, you're still free, right? You say yes, and then you're like, okay, I'll see you there. Which is just a nice thing to do. Okay, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is be open with others. So that was number 6, is be open with others. Okay, so friendships aren't just about sharing the good times. You have to be honest when you're not feeling your best. I said before that I was trying to relate this to the business, but actually what I meant to say was I'm not trying to relate this to the business, but things just keep coming up that go, that's so true in the business. And it comes back to the things of being parallel. So yeah, friendships aren't just about sharing the good times. And the reason that I brought that up again is because when you're doing your business, right, like it's so easy to shout about it when you're doing well, when you're on fire with recruitment, you're getting the sales, you're feeling really good. And then it's hard to be honest when you're not feeling good. It's hard to admit and say to your upline or your sidelines or your friends in the business, say, look, I don't know what's going on with me right now, but I don't feel myself. Something's not right. So I mean, do you guys agree it's harder to do that than when you're fired up? Maybe you don't. Maybe you feel like you can be completely honest with your upline and with your team. But I mean, Harriet knows I am honest when I'm not feeling myself, but I still find it a bit harder to do. Like it's much easier to be like, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this when I'm fired up, and it's harder to be like, because you don't want to feel like a burden, right? You don't want to admit that you are that you're struggling. Like we I think it's also a British thing. If you are completely British, then I think we have this in our nature, is the stiff upper lip thing. We don't want to be honest when we aren't coping with everything. So the whole point here is just be honest with other people, and taking it back outside of the business now is be honest with your friends and your family, and you know, they will feel honored that you've chosen to confide in them, and they will feel honored that you've chosen to open up. So talking about your things as well can really help you get a clearer head. And if you, not just the British, yeah, it's just a general thing as humans, we don't like to admit it. I think it's an ego thing. So yeah, talking about things can bring people closer. And if you don't have someone right now in your life that you feel like you can really open up with and be honest, someone will come into your life. You'll start to manifest it when you're consciously aware of it. But keep a diary. So keep a diary next to your bed. Just write in it every night before you go to bed. Just write how you're feeling, what's going on, and commit to doing it on the days when you don't feel good and the days where you do feel good. Because I did that for so many years of my life, and I'm so glad that I did, because I think because I got so used to sharing my feelings with a book. And by the way, when I was writing things in the book, in my diary, I used to think I'm sharing this with the future me. And oh, it's so crazy to take myself back to those times. But I always knew that I would become someone who was much more happy with my life. I had much more loving relationships around me. I had worked on my relationships that were suffering, and I'd healed that. I always knew that I had that within me, and I always knew I'd get there. I just didn't know how. And during that period where I was trying to work out how to get there, the thing that really helped me was getting comfortable with sharing my feelings, even though it was a book. Because then when I met Josh, and he's been a big part of my what's the word, like becoming more open and loving, when I met him, I was okay with sharing stuff because I've been practicing it all the years before. So that's just a little tip. If you do feel like you're quite lonely and don't know who to talk to, that's something to do. Number 7 is share an interest in your friend's life. So number 7, share interest in your friend's life. Okay. So this one's really simple. When you share an interest in someone else's life, they will do the same for you. And it comes back to the thing of asking people questions and listening. Like I said, sometimes I don't actually like it when people ask me because I'm like, no, like I just wanted to ask you, like keep talking. And people then, when you are genuinely asking other people, they do want to ask you back. They might talk for like 10-15 minutes straight and then go, and how are you? Because that happens a lot. And sometimes it's so rare for someone to be asked, how are you doing? What's going on? That sometimes when you're the person who asks them, they just reel off all of this stuff and they're like, I feel better now. And again, this happens on social media. Like when I just check in with people as a follow-up and I say, how are you doing? They'll send me a whole paragraph and then they'll go, sorry about the rant. How are you doing? Okay. So it's just really rare for people to do that. So it's something to think about. Okay, number 8, don't set expectations. So number 8 was don't set expectations. So hanging out or socializing, it doesn't have to have an objective goal. And if you're goal driven, you might struggle with this, but it's something to work on. And I relate to you. But hanging out doesn't have to have an end goal. It could literally just be you're there to relax. It's an opportunity to enjoy yourself. It's an opportunity to just switch off and to not worry about anything. So sometimes I'm like, okay, what am I going to get out of this meetup? And I have to consciously be aware of that, to be like, no, this is just a meetup to hang out, to relax, to have fun. So yeah, don't set expectations for the meeting. You know, that's when we end up being disappointed. Just go along with whoever it is you're meeting up with, or if it's a phone call or a Zoom call or a Zoom event or whatever. Don't set those expectations of like, this is going to make me feel amazing. Just go along and enjoy whatever the outcome is. And then the last one, which I think is number 9, is give yourself the permission to laugh. So number 9 is give yourself the permission to laugh. So often when we're not feeling 100%, we feel like we're not allowed to enjoy ourselves when we're around other people. We almost feel like, I've said I've not been feeling very well, so I've got to like almost uphold that, like God forbid if I laugh or show that I'm happy, people are going to think that I've been lying the whole time, you know. But no one is telling you that you have to play the sick role, or you know, it's okay to laugh and to be happy even if you've not been feeling 100% up until then. If you haven't got the points so far, maybe someone could share them in the chat bar, or you can catch up on the recording. Okay, so yeah, don't feel guilty about having fun or laughing. You know, that's part of us as human beings. We can switch from one emotion to another if we're around the right people. So that was section 1. I'd love for you guys to share if you noticed anything as we were going through that, either about yourself or other people, or things that you can apply to your business. Maybe just have a little look at any notes that you wrote. Or maybe just one thing that stuck in your mind, one thing that was like, I don't know why it stuck in my mind, but it did. Number 9 resonated with me way too much. Yeah, it's a good one. I've definitely been there before as well. Again, it comes as well from getting out of our own head and into our heart, of being like, I'm just going to feel what I'm feeling in the emotion. Like, I'm not going to think too much about it. I'm not going to think what other people are thinking. I'm just going to enjoy myself as it is. The one about meetups, just go to enjoy yourself for an outcome. Yeah. Tatiana, is probably because you're so goal driven and you're like, okay, what am I going to get out of this? Because that's what I'm like as well. But it's kind of just allowing yourself to, like, being present is just allowing yourself to let go, and it takes practice, but it's almost like, now I don't know how to explain it. I'm really trying to find the words to say this, but it's almost like you just breathe out and you just almost imagine that you're just floating, like you're just there, like you're just enjoying where you're at. And it's really hard for me to put it into words because it definitely takes practice. But yeah, you just got to you got to roll with it. You got to roll with it. Our life is a whole journey of ups and downs, of things being thrown our way, of like different situations working out differently to what we planned, and you just got to roll with whatever happens. People always say to me, they're like, how do you always see the positive in everything? I'm like, well, I'm just here. I'm just being present. I'm just living my life. Like, I can't control these things that happen to me. There's going to be more things that happen to me that are difficult, but I'm just going to roll with it. And that takes practice. If you're not there yet, keep going, because you will get there. I promise. And being open with others. Okay, great. So we're going to move on to the next section now, which is making new connections. So these sections are a little bit smaller, by the way, just so that you know. So making new connections. Okay, the first one in this section is start with, oh, 1 second. Yeah, start with places that you feel comfortable. Okay, so that was number one in that section of making new connections, is start with places you feel comfortable. And again, I was writing this down, like not thinking about the business, but as I was writing these things down, I was like, this is exactly what we do, right? We always talk about making new connections, building relationships. So it really is the same thing. But start with places where you feel comfortable. So it could, for example, be a coffee shop. Back when the world was normal, I have a coffee shop that I absolutely love in Bar City, and I always say hello to everyone there, and I go there so regularly that they always say hello back. We always have a nice conversation, and I say it to Josh, I say, every time we go there, doesn't matter what mood I'm in, what's been happening in my life, I always feel better when I've been in that coffee shop and come out, even if it's for a takeaway, because I feel so comfortable there. So start with places where you do feel comfortable. Maybe for you, you have a hobby that you love. In fact, everyone just share one place that they feel really comfortable. Maybe it's your hobby, maybe it's a local coffee shop, maybe it's a park that you always meet people, maybe it's the place where you take your children to play. Cheer for Emily, amazing, love that. The stables for Anna, yeah, great. These are all amazing. Reg, when I dance, yeah. Becky, the gym and cheer, yeah, amazing. Jackie, school. Stephanie, ballet class. My local Costa for Emily, yeah, great. And be honest, by the way, if you don't have anywhere you can think of right now, say, I don't have anywhere yet. The park for Louise, amazing. Being with family, yeah, love that. Any more? So these are all really great, and they're all so personal to you. Like, for example, if I was to go into a school that is such an uncomfortable place for me, I definitely wouldn't be making connections in a school. So we're all so different, and it's going to be up to you. So don't have anywhere yet, Kayla. Yeah, don't think I have anywhere yet. Okay, great. Thank you for being honest. So these are things to really think about now. Like, I know it's a bit more difficult with everything going on, but there are coffee shops still open for takeaways, and maybe you just set yourself this little lockdown challenge of going to the same place at least once a week and just get comfortable with being there. Go get yourself a coffee, ask the waiter or the waitress how their day's been. And the more you do it, the more, I promise, you'll start to feel really, really connected. And having that feeling is so powerful, because you can then apply it to different areas in your life. Also, if we took this online, it might be that you're in a Facebook group where you feel really comfortable. You feel like you can post in there, you can connect with people that, like, completely your audience, people that you want to make friends with. So there's that as well. But nothing, in my opinion, beats face-to-face connection. So I really recommend giving that a go. Okay, number 2. Explore your interests. So number 2 was explore your interests. So no matter what your interests are, there's bound to be a community that already exists, an event, a team, a club, taking this online. Maybe it's a virtual meetup once a week. There's Facebook groups, there's Instagram communities. So meet up with people virtually, obviously, that have similar interests. And if you can make it in your area as well, that's even more important. And actually, this whole section that I'm reading out right now is probably really going to help me when it comes to recruitment, because it's the same lessons. Okay, so number 2 was exploring your interests. Number 3, this one's quite interesting, is volunteering. So number 3 was volunteering. So in the normal world, obviously if you volunteer for something, it's a really great way to get you out of the house and to do something meaningful and interesting in an environment where people appreciate even the smallest amount of your time. So there probably are opportunities right now to volunteer, but my advice to you guys is volunteer within our community of what we do, or volunteer online on social media to do something, whether it's hosting a Zoom call, or whether it's having a free value group, or whether you volunteer yourself to actively post inside your health club. Like, these are all things of volunteering, because you don't get paid extra for doing those things, right? Like me, my volunteering is, one of the examples is doing this Sunday brunch. I want to do this. I want to give back to you. I'm not getting anything in return from it. Like, I'm not getting paid to do these. Like, I'm doing this just because it makes me feel good. It is selfish reasons. Again, it makes me feel good from being able to serve so many of you. That's why this Zoom call is opened up to anyone in Juice Plus. It's not just my team, because I don't do this to grow my business. I do this because I want to add value to you guys. So think about, what can you do to volunteer? Because doing those things when you're showing up for other people and you're feeling valued will make you feel so much better. So that was number 3. Okay, number 4. 1 and 3. I'll read them out one more time, but like I said, if someone's happy to share them in the comments or just watch the recording back after. So 1 was start with places you feel comfortable. 2 was explore your interests. 3 was volunteer. Okay, number 4 is think of conversation starters. So number 4 is think of conversation starters. So if you find it difficult to keep that conversation going when you meet someone, really think about ways that you can start that conversation. So something I teach for recruitment, and I'll share this in the chat bar because I guess you can apply this here as well, is wings. So where are they from? What are their interests? What are their needs? What are their goals? And something in common. So obviously I teach that because my brand is Business Angels, and wings kind of fits in quite well. And there's loads of different versions of this. You've got form, which I believe is family, occupation, recreation, and what's M? I feel like some of you know. I can't remember what. I know D is, I don't know, there's so many different versions. You've got form, you've got, sorry, that was going to say Ford. But you've got Ford, you've got form, you've got Lord, you've got some others as well. Motivation, thank you. But I use wings. So these are just anagrams to keep in your mind, because when you meet someone, whether it's on social media or it's real life, they're just good things to ask yourself, like, do you know the answers to all of these questions? And it's not like, oh yeah, I think this is what their goals are, or I think this is where they're from. It's like, you have to be certain, like, did you ask the question and do you know the answer? Okay, so what number are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Walking a dog. So this one's really interesting because up until recently, this one has never been one that would resonate with me at all. But obviously I've had a dog now for 3 weeks, I think. And we took her for a really long walk yesterday. So many people stopped to chat just because they wanted to stroke the dog. So taking your dog for a walk is a really good way to get active and meet other people. And if you don't have a dog, maybe ask a friend if you can borrow theirs, or go for a walk with them. I think we're allowed to do that. I'm not 100% sure on the restrictions at the moment, but I think we're allowed to meet with one other person from another household. So if you know someone who has a dog, maybe just say like, hey, the next time you take the dog for a walk, can I come with you? This is a really great way to chat with other people, and then you're nourishing that relationship as well. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're nearly there because the last section is really short as well. So number 6 is reigniting old friendships. So number 6 was reigniting old friendships. So sometimes old friends can become new friends. If they are friends from your past that you enjoyed contact with, consider reaching out to them. And social media is really, really good for this. And actually, again, this is interesting, is because some of my team members and customers came from people that I was really good friends with at school and I hadn't spoken to for 5 years, and that friendship had kind of died out. And then when they joined my team, I made an effort to go see them, and we rebuilt that friendship. And that's really powerful, and that can, this is why this business is so amazing, right? Because all of these things are written for not a business situation. But when you think about it, our business helps all of these things, because we start posting, and we start posting positivity and motivation. People that are on our social media that we've maybe lost touch with, they start watching, and in time they'll start interacting, and you'll be able to build that relationship back up. So that is really, really powerful for building our social life, especially in a virtual world, which we're very much going into. Like, who knows what the next few months will look like. Okay, so the last section is using social media. So that was the last section of the 3, sorry, so we've moved on to a new topic now. And there's only 3 little sections within this section of social media. So I'll just go through them quickly. Actually, no, we'll do that at the end. At the end, I want you guys to share what the biggest takeaway has been throughout this. So if you haven't had one yet, maybe think through these next few points and see if there's something you can take away from here. So using social media, number 1 is social media can allow you to connect. Obviously, we know how powerful it is, but social media is meant for that. It's meant for staying connected with friends and family and expanding your social circle. That's why it was created. That's how we all use it. And I don't need to talk too much about this, because obviously from us being in Juice Plus and doing what we do in network marketing, we very much use social media for connection. But what I do want you to remember is that people that aren't involved in network marketing, they don't see social media as a tool as such for connecting with new people. Their social media feed might be just quite negative, with news articles and things like that. Like, they're going to see social media different. So there's something just to be aware of when you're talking to other people outside of what we do. I kind of think of them as muggles. Like, they're not in our industry, they don't see it, they don't know what it is, so they're like network marketing muggles. So number 2, don't make comparisons. People tend to post more about the good stuff happening in their life, like their social media reel, right? And it makes them seem that their life is just full of excitement, of fun. Luckily, in the Juice Plus company, we don't really have this vibe. But in some network marketing companies, there's a lot of hype. It's like, I bought this, I bought that, I've got so much money, like da 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 da. And it's kind of like, okay, that's great, but that's not relatable for one. And also, I don't know how much I believe, because everything is just so amazing and fantastic. So where's the other stuff happening? Like, you're a human being. Why aren't you sharing some of the other stuff going on? So yeah, it's really important to not only for us to share the realities of our life and the struggles that we go through, but also to appreciate that not everyone on your feed is showing that. So don't compare yourself. And one of my rules on social media is I really do try to be authentic. So if something negative is happening in my life, I will share it, but I won't share it in a way of like, oh, it's so shit. I'll share it and be like, but this is what I'm doing about it. Because that's when you're inspiring. You're sharing that stuff is going on. You're a real person, but what are you doing about it? Because I don't know about you guys, I can't stand it when people constantly complain on Facebook from, I don't have a job, I don't have money, I don't have time. And you're like, well, I've spoken to you about opportunities and I've tried to reach out to you and other people have tried to reach out to you, and it's the same problems over and over and over again, right? Because that person's not doing anything about it. So don't be that person. I know you're not anyway. And to be honest, I would say try and remove those kind of people from your social media circle, because it's just going to make you feel down. And a phrase I always say is, sometimes I'm not the best person to help someone else. And that just means that when someone has a specific problem, it's not my job to help them. I'm not the right person to help them. And someone else in the world is the right person to help them. And I just believe that they will find each other eventually, but it's not my job to do that. So 1, 2, that was number 2. Number 3 is, and just following on from that as well about the comparison thing is, don't get sucked in to believe that like everyone else's life is free of challenges and difficulties, whether that is business or whether that is general life. Every single person, no matter how positive they are or what vibe they're giving off, what energy, everyone is dealing with their own shit, and you really have to remember that. I'm definitely talking to the wrong people here, because the people that need to hear this are probably the people feeling sorry for themselves and not on this call and, like complaining about all of the things going on. But everyone has their own challenges, and it's being respectful of that and appreciating that. Okay, the last one. Number 3 is, don't use social media to replace face-to-face interaction. Now, again, this is a difficult one because of the current situation, and in a lot of ways we have to use social media to replace face-to-face interaction. But like I said earlier, I really do try to go out and go to your takeaway coffee shop and start those real life conversations, because we're going, it's almost Black Mirror like, the world that we're going into. If you've seen Black Mirror, you'll know exactly what I mean. But we're becoming so much more isolated. And I watch movies and reality TV shows on TV. I just have it in the background when I'm working, and people will be so close together and they're hugging and there's like these big groups, and I sat there thinking, God, that's so wrong, and it's making me cringe, because we've kind of adapted to being more isolated and not being in that close proximity of lots of other people. So who knows what things are going to go back like. I don't think the new normal is going to be the same normal it was before. So really, really try as much as you can to keep those face-to-face interactions, because it's so powerful, and social media is great. It's amazing we're able to do things like this and connect virtually, but nothing beats being in real life with someone. And I spoke about it before, it's the senses. I know we can't touch other people right now, we definitely can't taste other people right now and ever. That would just be weird. But the other things of smelling someone's scent, like smelling their perfume, those things, hearing someone's voice in real life is great. We have voice notes and things like that, which is amazing. And physically being able to see someone, it's different being able to see someone in real life than it is virtually. You get a much different picture. People are always surprised that I'm only 5'2" in real life, but that's me. Like, I am 5'2". I am a petite build, and people don't see that necessarily on social media. So it builds that connection and that relationship with someone else. So yeah, do as much as you can. Oh yeah, of course. Did we haven't missed it yet, have we? We've got 5 minutes. This is actually going to finish in a minute, so we'll pause, we'll do the silence, and then we'll carry on until take the break until 12. Not 12, sorry. 11, and then we'll come back and we'll do the power hour just to finish before 12, if that makes sense. So we'll pause at 11. I'm going to I'm going to mute myself, and I'll put the music back on after a couple of minutes. Is everyone happy with that? Yeah, okay. Amazing. So just to finish off then, I would love to hear any takeaways you had from that, because that was everything. The three in that section were: social media allows you to connect, don't make comparisons, don't use social media to replace face-to-face interaction. So do you want to just share like one big takeaway that you have from that? And maybe it's just like a little thing that you're going to try to do more of, or maybe it was just something that really resonated with you and you thought, okay, I'm gonna work on that, or I'm gonna pay more attention to that. Okay, so Kayla, to be in my feelings and feel them regardless of being down. Yeah, amazing. I love that. We just got a couple more minutes. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. Like I said, it was a bit sad for me doing this one this week because of the importance of face-to-face interaction and the difficulties we have with it at the moment. But there are things we can do, and that's what we have to focus on. We have to focus on the things we can control and not necessarily what we can't. Comparing yourself to others, yeah, absolutely, it's a killer. Instagram's the worst because everyone's just so positive and you think, come on, there's other stuff going on. Think about why other people might want to hang out with me. My problem is I don't mind spending time on my own. Yeah, I'm like that as well. I love time on my own. But it's 100% realizing that other people want to benefit from you and want to benefit from being around you and your energy. Love that. Being open, as I'm not good about talking about myself. Yeah, that's great. The importance of face-to-face interaction. Yeah, amazing. These are all really, really great. So what we'll do after, when we come back after the little break, is some high paying activities. It'll be about half an hour, 40 minutes, and we'll get on with messages. During the break, if you can, just reply to any unopened messages so that we've got a fresh inbox. I'm really going to focus on new conversations and new connections. And you definitely don't want to get overwhelmed by the amount of messages that you have to reply to. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.